Now we are live. Hello, everyone. Hi. Welcome to
Hello.
Book Chat. We've got Jake Stormoen here as well. I say Stormoen, and every time I say that, you go, Stormoen.
No, that's entirely correct. Don't be silly.
Okay, cool.
Love
Well,
your work.
this is technically part two of this month's book club. So, what will happen is, hello, chat. So many people joining on in, which is super exciting. We at Book Club will choose a book a month. And then, usually, the first Wednesday of the month, we'll talk about the first half of it. And then, the second Wednesday of the month, we'll talk about the second half of it. But schedules are getting a little bit funky town because of the holidays and because of Nerdist Book Club. So, we're at the last Wednesday of the month. And we haven't spoken about this book for like 3 weeks. So it's super exciting to get back into it. If you don't know, we have a Patreon perk that gets you access into this book club chat. And when I say into it, it's not watching. Anyone can watch it, but to participate in the conversation. And we've got about 15 or so people from Geek Bum community, which I'm so grateful for. Thank you, everyone in here who have gone through the book. But Jake, because you're our guest, I believe you're like our first guest that we've had on for book chat, this
Oh,
iteration of
exciting.
it publicly. So I kind of want to get from you, Mistborn, you have been posting that you've been reading this book. How did you stumble upon it? When did you first read it? What are your thoughts on the book?
I've been told to read Mistborn and Brandon Sanderson at large for several years now, and I think it was kind of like you and I were talking about before this began just a few minutes ago, where it was on my like to read list for a long time, and then a few people I knew finally kind of dug in, and they're like, "Okay, Jake, for real, you gotta, it's time, man. You're gonna love it." And so I think I did I take it to Serbia with? I was working on a show, TV show that shot in Serbia, and I think I took it with me. I don't think I started it before going over there. And so it was one of several books that I took with me to read while I was over there, because I was over there like 6 months at a time, and just loved it. I loved it a lot. And so I have since been going through the trilogy. I'm on the third book right now. And I've done something that I haven't done with any other book series that I've read, and I'm a huge fantasy geek, as you know, Maud.
Yep.
I've read and played games and stuff my whole life, so I've always had my nose in a fantasy book or a sci-fi book, and this is kind of one of the first series that I can remember where I'll like it irks some friends of mine who want to talk about it, but I'll like intentionally step back from it because I love the world so much, and I don't want it to end.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a weird thing that I've never done before, but I'll like kind of I did it with the second book especially. I loved the first one. I plowed through the first one, and then the second one I was like I got to do this in pieces because I just
You want to
it's
delay
going
the
too quickly.
process. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I love that though. There's only like a handful of times that I've had that where it's like I enjoy it so much that I have an inner battle with myself, whereas I want to consume it immediately because I cannot be satiated by it. Like I want to consume it all. But then I get really like I'm pumping the brakes on this show that I'm watching because like I'm getting so into it. I love it so much. I'm into anime, by the way. That's something that I'm doing now. So
There you
you
go.
started reading this book this year. Have you got a
No,
refresh?
it was a couple years ago now.
Oh,
It was, I think, the first season of The Outpost that was shot in Serbia, so it would have been 2019, 2020. No, 2019. Um, and then brought the second book with me when we returned. Got through that. Now I'm on the third book, but I've only just started it because I've been so busy.
got it. Do you remember what
Yeah,
happened in
yeah.
the first book? Because if you don't, we've got a Google Doc right there with
Oh,
the
I do.
about the book, and maybe you could read that for everyone.
Oh my goodness. I know. I there were a couple. So those of you lovely viewers of Geek Bomb and Maud Garrett, I stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'm an actor and a voice actor as well, I guess. And I stream Elder Scrolls
Yes.
Online on Thursdays, and I voice a handful of characters there. And my Twitch viewers love it when I pick up a lore book and in this fantasy show that I was on, I had to talk with an English dialect, so I spoke like this all the time, and so I saw that there were some requests, which is what Maud is making fun of me for right now. Not making fun, but bringing attention to. So am I doing this mod, I guess is what I'm getting at, with a dialect, or am I just reading this?
Do it as Kelsier.
What does Kelsier sound like? Do we know? Do we
Well,
have an
technically,
opinion on this?
we haven't had an actual sort of like live action iteration of Kelsier, but your audience is making such a strong argument that you would make a great Kelsier. So
That would be a dream role. Well, let's just
that in
dive right in.
mind.
Great. Let's. He's probably a bit more lively than the character I was playing on television, but we'll go like this then, yeah.
They're all saying read it like Garrett.
Now, Garrett's a bit deeper and a bit more somber all the time. We'll just do a standard English dialect. So, about the book, is that what you want me to
About the book.
dive into? All right. For the past 1,000 years, ash falls from the sky and miscloaks the world at night. The Scar live in misery under the Lord Ruler, who reigns with absolute power and ultimate terror, divinely invincible, until Kelsier, me apparently, reigns with that. Oh, excuse me. Until Kelsier, a half-Scar, Mistborn, turns his talents to overthrowing the tyrant. He recruits the underworld's elite, the smartest and most trustworthy allomancers, each of whom shares one of his many powers, and all of whom relish a high-stakes challenge. His plan is still a long shot until he meets Vin, a half-Scar orphan, who discovers her true powers as a Mistborn under his tutelage. Together, this crew attempts to pull off the greatest rebellion this world has ever seen. And there you have it.
Well, I'm sorry, there's just a little bit more in there.
Is it not on my about the book? Where my
You sure? Just says
yeah. Summary. No. Now we're into regular chapters. That's my. Something went wrong. Reload. Hold on.
Right
Wait.
there.
I had to reload it. And also, the greatest rebellion this world has ever seen. And Maude is the best person ever.
It's weird.
There we go.
It says it.
That's it. It's in the summary of the book.
Wow. Okay. Well.
I'm so mad I reloaded your Google Doc for that.
So what do you give the book out of 10? And everyone in the book chat, in Patreon, in the Discord, get ready because we'll be going through alphabetically. Out of 5. Out of 5? Out of 5?
All right.
Out of 5.
5 out of 5. I love this book.
5 out of 5. Okay.
100%. And I don't say that lightly.
I want to give it a 5 out of 5, but at the end of the day, we have to recognize that I didn't laugh the first half of the book the first time I tried to read it.
That's fair enough.
So I will say 4.75, but that 0.25 is on me. That's on me. And I recognize that.
4.75.
Gory gives you a 5 out of 5 just for the summary reading.
Stop it.
Finn loves the allomancy system. Great as well. Jimmy's given it a 3.5 out of 5, which we'll hear more about for sure.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Pianki says 5 out of 5. Lise will have a chat with you about it. Lark Leanne says 5 out of 5. Blue Reader Girl actually just finished the book today.
Fantastic.
Only today. So welcome to this particular book club. But we're going to head over to book chat. Something that you really liked about it, or why you gave the book the score you're giving it. Avery, we're going to start with you, love. Even though I already know.
So I gave it a 5 out of 5. And I just really like the world. I think it's just so interesting. And the way that, like, Brandan Sanderson, like, puts reason behind everything. And kind of like we talked about last time about how there's always, like, it's not all good. Like, there are some consequences to using allomancy and everything. And I really like that. And, yeah.
Favorite character?
Ben.
Okay.
I love Ben.
Colleen, over to you. What are you giving this one out of 5? I already see it in the chat there. Why are you giving this a 5 out of 5?
Oh, I just love this book so much. I love the consistency of the magic system. I loved all of the characters. I felt like I knew them personally or wanted to know them all personally. And I really liked that one of their important members in the crew was not an allomancer. He just used his reason and talents to succeed, and was just as vital a part of the plan as everyone else.
Is that Docs?
Yes.
Yeah. Who I believe last time we did our part 1 book chat and we fan casted, they fan casted Colin Firth for that role.
Oh, fun.
I kind of dig it. I kind of really dig
Yeah.
that aristocratic kind of, we went through
Yeah,
like
that's
full on
fun.
fan casting. We didn't have you as Kelsier.
Son of a mount.
We there was like Simon Baker, the Australian, because he's blonde, but
Okay.
he's a little bit older. He's also recently single. How do I know that? Oh.
You were researching for fan casting.
That's
Yeah,
what
I
happened.
got
He
you.
was dating an Aussie. Who else did we have as Kelsier? Because he has to be incredibly charismatic. He has to have leadership qualities. He has to command a room. He has to have a face that you can trust. He's such a great character.
Great character.
In saying that, Jay Buntrock, you had your score, I believe, 5 out of 5 for you. You've got loud family around you. I love your commitment. Kakahu, are you there? What did you give me this 1 out of 5?
I give this a 5 out of 5.
People love the book. Why is that?
I know that yes, the beginning can be a little bit slow for some people, but for me, I still loved it all the way through, and the last half, is just great, and it gets better and better as it builds and builds. A lot of people say that at the end of every Sanderson book that you have the Sanderlanche, which is essentially just the rising climax of all the different viewpoint characters and just everything coming together throughout his books, that it just makes it so you don't want to stop reading
Yeah.
for the last
100%.
third quarter of the book, if not more.
In #reading, the part of our Geek Bomb Discord, we obviously we were reading it in the last week or two, and everyone was just like, couldn't put it down, already bought the next book, like it's 3 a.m, help me. It was like that kind of stuff. Jay Stormoen, if you're in the chat and you see Jay Stormoen who said hello chat, that's Jake. If you want to go click his page and give him a follow, that's the easiest way to do that one. I'm sure, Gory, we can whip up a quick exclamation mark guest with details as well, which probably should have done a couple of hours ago, but I was too busy panicking over Thanksgiving sides that I said I would prepare.
Well, you're fine. I was watching chat and then realized I wasn't logged in, so I had to get my
she did it already.
authentication token. Oh my gosh, there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anyway, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're all good. Lisa's next. Lisa, did you give this one 5 out of 5 as well, I saw? Yes.
Yeah, this is actually my third time reading the book.
Wow.
It was
You got
actually
us
the
all beat.
Yeah, it was my first Sanderson book I ever read, but I didn't continue the series. And then I went back and read the whole trilogy. I think it was last year. So this is my third read of the first book. So I love it. I kind of talked about it when we were talking about the first half, where with the way Sanderson writes his like fight scenes and action scenes, to me, I can finally picture it. So like I can actually see it the way most people can see things when they're reading. So like it just makes everything so much more enjoyable to me. And I love the characters. I just love everything about it. So I don't think I've given any of his books under a 5 stars. So I love him.
And credit where credit due, Lisa has been suggesting the Mistborn series for our book chat for a while now. And I think by our powers combined, we have successfully converted many a people into the series, which is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We've got Michelle next, and then it'll be Jimmy, then Thierry, and then Vaidin. So Michelle, hello.
Hello.
You said you have to be in a particular mood to read this book.
Yeah, I think just like it's a little bit longer than is an easy read. And then also, I'm not always in the mood to be reading about such stark social disparity.
Yeah, you're right.
And a lot of like really sad stuff happens. So I'm just not always in the mood to consume that, especially if I'm stressed out on something else. So,
I agree. I get that completely. Like you are talking about, you are constantly being reminded of what futile of a battle they're up against, So I agree with you in that regard. And then even the nice guys, you're like, Elaine, you're so great. You're the breath of fresh air. And it's like, oh, you were forced to rape a woman. Okay. You know, it's like every single time you have a glimmer of hope, it's like, it kind of just gets you, it beats you down again. And I think that's entirely the point of the book. My gosh, I apologize for anyone who is a SourceFed fan. Anytime I say the book, it reminds me of the bloopers, and I can't say it properly. That is a 6-year blast from the past. Anyway, I hear what you're saying about the book. Jay Mondo really quickly said, isn't this the guy who did Wheel of Time? He's not the original author of Wheel of Time. That's Robert Jordan, but Robert Jordan passed before he could finish the series. And then Sanderson, there you go, Lady Chrissy? Chrissy? Lady? How do you say it, Jake?
I don't know. I know her actual name because she's one of my viewers, so I just call her by her name, but I don't know if that's okay right now.
Chris, fair enough. Lady C says...
Lady C.
Yeah, says Sanderson finished the last 2 books of Wheel of Time from Jordan's notes and outlines. 3 books. It was the last 3. It was supposed to be 1 originally, but it was just too big and turned into 3. Pianki's coming in with those facts as well. Oh, Jay Buntrock says, I got Andrew Garfield for Kelsier and Rowan Blanchard for Vin. I don't know Rowan Blanchard, so I'm going to quickly have Rowan Blanch. Oh, yeah.
I need to do this too.
Oh, wow. Okay. She is in... What's she in? She was on a list of Time's most influential teens in 2015. She's in Snowpiercer. Thank you, Avery.
Oh, wow.
She could be a great Vin. I see that big time. Good casting. Chris. All right. Okay. Hi, Chris. Yeah. It's so funny, Lisa, you say that Andrew Garfield seems a bit too young. He's 38. Andrew Garfield's 38 and he's doing a show at the moment.
Is he 38?
Is it a movie, Tick, Tick, Boom, where he's playing someone who's just turning 30? I'm like, guy's he's drinking from the well of youthfulness. He looks too young.
He's got the Paul Rudd thing going on.
Paul Rudd looks like a man, though. Andrew Garfield's stuck in boy man territory.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
I can't complain. That might be my type. Jimmy, you said 3.5 out of 5. You have the lowest score. Own it. Why?
Own it.
So, yes, I read this book.
You did.
And this second half did not cause me physical pain like my first one. When I was reading it and I fell asleep and banged my head on the table.
That's right.
So I'm very grateful of that. Maybe I'm holding a little resentment towards that. I don't know. But yeah, this definitely went from 0 to bonkers very immediately.
Yeah.
It was just like very, for lack of a better term, droll. And then it was just like, hey, do you like cocaine? Then let's do it right now. Mistborn. Nom, 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 nom,
Do you think, and let's use a gardening analogy because they're my favorite, do you think that he was just planting all the seeds and then all of a sudden they all just started growing at once?
Exactly. It was like Plants vs. Zombies, if you remember that game.
I do.
Where they just basically overwhelm you with zombies and you're like, I'm trying my best.
I'm pretty sure when I first played that, I didn't know my microphone was on. And the person that I was playing against, I was so upset at them. And I think I was like, why are you being such a C-bomb? Because I didn't think they could hear me. And then I hear this 4 or 5-year-old start laughing. And his dad was there to help him play the game for what sounded like the first time.
Nice.
Not nice. Not nice. Really bad moment.
There's a valuable lesson in there.
I was like, what is wrong with you? You are the slowest person I've ever played with. He's like, hi, Daddy, I got it. I was like, oh, no. Anyway, there is a special place in hell for me, which is why I'll just talk about books until I get there. Thank you, Jimmy.
You're welcome.
I hear you. The first half was a little bit of a slog, so I'm with you on that one. Thierry, what are you giving this one?
I actually didn't finish it.
It's a long book. You're okay with that?
No, it's not because of the length. It's because of the narrator of the audiobook. Michael Kramer.
Michael Kramer, who is
I-
the reason why I couldn't listen to Wheel of Time. He does
Same.
all Brandon Sanderson's books.
Really?
So I'm gonna need to buy physical books to jump on that afterwards.
So I've done book and I've done narrator. It does get easier.
I tried at 1.5 speed.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
Okay.
But with what everything people are saying about the book, it's like it's supposed to be a book I would like because it's my genre. I like fantasy books. So yeah, I need to get a physical copy eventually and read it instead of listening to somebody that I can't.
I know,
stand
Michael.
reading to me.
And I think it's the era. I think it was like around when audiobooks first started popping up. There were so few narrators, and I think that we've seen this with Simon Vance as well, who I think we've heard about four or five different books already that he's narrated. But it's the audio sounds a little bit older as well. Like it hasn't got a crisp sound, and he's reading. He's just reading the book.
Yeah.
And then
I'd rather have somebody that acts the book that they are reading than read the book to me.
that's a really good suggestion, Gory. We should just get Jake to narrate it.
On it.
Could
Same
you do
time next week?
audiobooks?
I've done audio short stories before. I've never done a full book.
It's only like 60,000 words. Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. It's like
That's
a
easy.
weekend job. Be fine.
And you know what? Books do get re-narrated because, as the Bad Finn has said, you can now listen to Rosamund Pike read Wheel of Time. We all are. That's what I've been, and I've actually had to try to get out of Wheel of Time brain because I've been listening to that book for the last week and try to get back into the Mistborn frame set. Yeah, everyone's agreeing. You should do the audiobook for this one. Last but not least,
All right,
Vaidin.
I'm on it.
Yeah, hey.
What'd you give it?
All right, I give it a 4.5 out of 5.
What happened to the 0.5?
I love the book, but I don't give anything a 10 out of 10, basically. I mean, unless it's literally perfect, and I've never seen any perfect, so...
This is as close to perfect for you.
Pretty much, unless it's like literally blows my mind. I don't think it's gonna get to that point. But yeah, I did love it. Everything about it, the world building, especially early on. Like I enjoyed that part, probably maybe even more than the end. But like, there's just a huge amount of information about the Allomancy, Farakami. Like, I love about the stuff about the previous world. You know, the world they don't have anymore. The world with the nice, pretty sun, the
color
green
is
flowers.
Green? Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's interesting because like it's one of those things also because like in our history, like there were a lot of people who didn't really think of like that kind of stuff. Like the colors blue and stuff and green are kind of more recent, I guess. Like sorry, it's like I think it's like orange and blue are more recent like inventions. Basically, people thought of them as other colors essentially because they didn't have those subtleties yet. But it kind of reminds me a little of that, where it's an older world where you know you can imagine it kind of being like maybe a part of our past or past that we can get to explore.
Yeah.
So yeah,
well, you're feeling you're seeing oppression happen over time, which is why the book is so dense. And I agree with you with that one, Michelle. We all joke, about Jake narrating and all of this. And I think it was, Bad Finn who just says, the next 30 streams, just read the book. I am following a guy on TikTok because he has a British accent and he reads books.
Really?
And he'll do live TikTok streams of reading. And I'm just like, this is the best thing ever. So, yeah.
Well, there we go. Here's the new shtick right there.
We're talking favorite characters. J Bunt Rock says that Cazed was the favorite. I'm guessing for you, Jake, it's Kelsier. And if so, why?
I did really like Kelsier. I liked Kelsier a lot. And I liked that all the characters, to me, there was no perfect character, and I didn't feel like they tried to make any of them perfect. And even Kelsier, so many people viewed him as perfect, and Brandan Sanderson and other characters were quick to point out his flaws. And that maybe he takes things a little too far and doesn't seemingly think far enough ahead, or maybe thinks too far ahead and doesn't take into consideration those around him and what they might be feeling and give them the respect to include them in some of his plans and things like that. So I liked that he wasn't perfect, but I have a real soft spot in fantasy for the flawed hero who kind of charges ahead and gets it, gets the job done, and a bit of that martyr mentality and things like that. And I just thought that Kelsier was so well fleshed out, and I loved that we were introduced to him in phases of kind of seeing these layers, and as Vin was kind of let into the circle and brought behind the curtain on a lot of this, I felt like we, the reader, were as well. And so I love that I also go. We've all read the second half, right?
This is full spoiler.
There's no getting around. This is full spoilers. Okay.
Except Thierry, you haven't finished it yet, so your call if you want to deafen.
Yes, I apologize. We're about to spoil right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that, like, I as a reader agreed with some of the other characters and members of the crew, where I was like, come on, Kel, you couldn't have. There was no way to do this in which you didn't die. Like, did it have to be like that? Did you have to play it out that way and really not include anybody else for their sake or yours, whatever it might have been? And he just felt very human to me. And so to see somebody who was so consumed by that goal and that mission and felt so human still do such extraordinary things and ultimately accomplish his goal, whether you agree with his methods or not, it was just, he was a very interesting and compelling character to me. And those are the most relatable when I'm reading a book as well, for me. And those are the ones that make me stop and think the most. And so I really liked that a lot.
Did you have more or less respect for Kelsier once you saw what his overall plan was?
I feel like I had more respect for him, but I shouldn't have had more respect for him. That's kind of what I felt inside, that I should be a little more upset. Maybe that's a glimpse inside myself. I don't know. But I feel like I should have been a little more like, WTF, man.
Yeah.
And when it all came together, I was gutted. I was heartbroken by how it played out. But I also was like, dude, you did it. Yeah. Like, you said you were going to do it. And you knew from the beginning what it would probably consist of. And it made me go back to the beginning of the book every time he's described as putting this charming smile on, and to the point where Vin's like, okay, nobody's that happy. Settle down. Like, what the hell's the matter with you? And he's just always kind of joking it away. And then you realize the turmoil that he's hiding behind that, and that he had a plan to take it all the way to where he did, and he accomplished it, despite some of those obstacles that cropped up at the very end there with the Inquisitor and everything else, and the Lord Ruler himself, and that fight. And it was insane to me. But I don't know. He just felt so real. And it's rare to me to be brought into such a fantastical world with a magic system like that is so far removed, but also so well explained. And like everybody has been talking about, this bleak kind of apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic setting, this horrible, the ash falls and things like that. To be brought in where everything is so elevated or so pronounced as far as, like, this is clearly not the world that you and I inhabit as a reader, and yet to make it feel so real and raw and connected, I think was a really cool thing. I'm rambling now. I could talk about this way too long.
And I think Avery's with you on that one, saying, I remember being completely wrecked by the end of part 4 the first time I read it. It was so well done, but man, it hurt. I had a lot of respect for I think what bothered me the most about Kelsier is he was so driven and he seemed to kind of have a plan, but Sanderson wrote his arc in that journey as if he was starting to get a little self-involved, as if he was starting to see an opportunity to make himself a god. And so this Messiah complex kind of took over to the point where it kind of cost it kind of cost the army, that it built up false hope where they thought that the army thought that they had possessed some of Kelsier's power. And so with that kind of false narrative, they charged into battle and were completely wiped out. And you kind of like, Kelsier, pull your head in, buddy. Like, you're going so far with this. You're creating this image that you are a god. It stopped being about the 11th metal, and you're starting to spread sort of propaganda to amplify yourself. And I was super worried about that, where I was just like, reel it in, bud. But then to know it was all part of the plan, where he actually had to die a martyr that represented hope, so that by him dying, hundreds of thousands of people thought that they could actually, fight this fight that would keep going ahead of them. But the fact that Kelsier was that many steps forward for all of it was amazing. When I was doing my research on this book, there was a comment that someone made saying because Kelsier was Vin's mentor, he had a target on his back, and they saw that coming. I want to open up this conversation with the chat, so feel free to unmute. But did anyone see Kelsier's death? Did they see it coming? Did you find it predictable? Jake, I'll start with you.
I was worried it was going to happen. I definitely did not see it coming in that it was all part of his plan. Because I was with you. I was and maybe that's why in the end I liked Kelsier so much, is there was definitely a good portion of the book where I was like, okay, bro, you're taking it too far. Like, what are you doing right now? This is not what you have been talking about. This is not the salvation that you are trying to bring these people from the Lord Ruler.
It's like he preaches teamwork, but then he's put himself at the center of it and elevating on a platform almost as well, like this pedestal.
And the people closest to him were noticing, and they were worried about it too. And they thought that he was getting too involved, and he would smile and brush it aside and whatever. And that bothered me at the time. But then to see, like you said, that it was all part of the plan, and that you go, oh my gosh, it wasn't just the job, it wasn't just the crew, and
it wasn't ego. It wasn't ego.
No, but it was a thing where he said, okay, they are so used to the Lord Ruler, and nothing will change until they can replace him as a deity with something else to properly believe in. Not just somebody who's going to stand up and say, I'm a champion of the people, but something more than that. And I think that's where I went, oh, I'm so mad you did what you did, but I also respect it in a horrible, horrible way, because there were sacrifices, right? There were huge sacrifices. So I wasn't surprised, again, that he died because of the momentum that he built up as a character, and having a target on his back is a good way of putting it. But I was surprised. I admittedly did not see it coming in the form of this was the plan from day one of like bringing these people in, sowing discord amongst the nobility, while also getting the Scot to believe that. And you look back and I'm like, how else could it have happened other than piece by piece, little by little, for them to almost build it up themselves, and he just kind of put the breadcrumbs out right where they needed to be. So no, I didn't see that aspect of his death coming, and I was hoping I was wrong about that he might die.
But there were even things like after the fact where it was like, hello, knock, knock, we gave you some clues. Why do you think Caesar kept talking about religions? Why was Kelsier so interested in the history of religions? He was trying to see a pattern. And Chris makes a really great comment here. You have to be a god to fight a god. And then, of course, when someone asks if you are a god, you say yes. That was great.
Are you a god? Yeah.
Anyone in the chat want to jump in on sort of the Kelsier twist? I'm looking for anyone to unmute. Jimmy.
Yeah, like I said in the chat before, I felt like this Kelsier twist was very similar to Hamlet. Now, I'm sure everyone's read Hamlet, right?
Yeah, but that was in high school when I had to read it, so I've spaced out.
Back in the day.
Okay. Well, basically, Hamlet, wants to get back at the king, right? And so he plans to trick the king into getting into a way. And then they go, ha ha, no, I'm going to trick you. And the Hamlet's like, no. I've already got your number. So
Right.
I'm going to do this, so not to go into the whole explanation on Hamlet, but it was very similar where he was just like, I'm going to double trick you. I'm
Right.
going to pull a Queen's Gambit on you and it's going to slap you right in the face.
Got it.
That's how I felt.
Well, I think you were one of the few people that did predict or saw Kelsier's death coming. Sure, well done.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to have a chat ski about Kelsier's twist, becoming a deity, his ego, the Messiah complex? Colleen?
Yeah. I think in a way, I didn't see it coming. I kept thinking he was like Kaz in that he always was a jump ahead and had another escape plan.
We are talking about Kaz from Six of Crows, by the way, for those that don't know.
Yes. But I thought, in a way, well, someone pointed out at this point, he felt like he had nothing to lose. He'd lost Mare, and he thought he'd lost Marsh. So he figured that he didn't have anything to lose. But also, in a way, this made him more of a god or more of a messiah by becoming a martyr, because then he had the Kandra appear to people as Kelsier.
Yes.
And spread the religion, so to speak. So I didn't see it coming, but I think in a way it deified him.
And it's so interesting as well because we have, of course, I've forgotten the name, Renault. Renault, that's a car brand. And I think in the audiobook they say Renew or something. And for those talking about how to say Sazed's name, when I read the book I said Sazed, but when I listened to the audiobook they said Sazed. So I'm going with what the audiobook said for that one.
Interesting.
But, when the plan was coming to fruition, we'd met this character, Lord Renault, and Renault wasn't actually him. We saw that he was sort of like a doppelganger or a body snatcher or whatever it was. But we knew that that was a piece that was a part of this puzzle here. So the fact that Kelsier had originally said, you'll play this role for the moment, but that's only because my end goal is that you will eventually play me. And knowing that this creature has to consume the bones, the finality for that's when it came crushing down. Because it's like, Kelsier always seemed like one step ahead, even though he literally got half his face smacked off, which was described in such a way. That whole battle, you're exactly right. Who was saying, is it Avery was saying, or is it Lisa was saying, the way that it was written, it's such a visual language that you can see how this happens. And I think that it needs to be made into a show or a movie immediately.
But it has to be done perfectly too. It can't.
How can it not though? It's like if you put in 2/5 Sherlock mixed in with like 1/5 Lies of Loch Lamora, which is this other heist series that I'm desperate for everyone to get into. But if you have like those components, this is going to be just such an amazing thing to explore. And we're already fan casting, and the more I see it, the more I'm like, I want it. Is there actually any information on Mistborn's series being adapted? Whoa.
I believe the rights, I think it was going to go into pre-pro a while back, and then I think a studio shelved it maybe, and I don't know who has the rights now. But I know that they're not just floating. I know that somebody's got them.
He's had none of his books adapted for the screen.
Yeah.
He's sold the properties, including Mistborn and Alcatraz, but nothing's just happened yet. It's sold a few times, in fact.
So I mean, I knew that it had started to go into production years ago, I believe. And then I don't know what happened, but it kind of got scrapped and brought back to square one.
Devo.
So I don't know who's got it now. Yeah, right.
Especially because like Netflix is doing such a good job with the Shadow and Bone series, which has kind of sort of like amalgamized. It's taken over Six of Crows as well in their storytelling. Oh, here we go. The Bad Finn. Thank you. In October 2016, the rights to the Cosmere universe, including the Mistborn series, were licensed by DMG Entertainment. 2017, Deadline reported that DMG signed F. Scott Frazier as the screenwriter. So that was 4 years ago. Sanderson was just talking to them about it last week, I think. And there's a Mistborn board game. Oh. Have you started like laying the Kelsier foundation down?
What are you talking about? Who are you talking to right now? You talking to me?
We need to.
Let's do it.
Get that happening.
That is something that, all jokes aside, on my streams, when people, because that's, especially first time viewers, that's a popular question. I feel like with actors is it's like what would be a dream role? Yep. And that's been my go-to for a while because there are no current adaptations, there are no current versions of that. And I do think he's such a fascinating character. And despite the fact that he, of course, dies at the end of the first book, I think he would still be 100% my favorite to play.
Well, I mean, you could still also play the alternate version.
It's true.
The puppet.
True. But I think he's such a great character, and I know obviously I'm not the only one to think that. But no, that would truly be a dream.
Oh, we got a great question in here, and that is from Lady Chris saying, I kept trying to figure out why the Lord Ruler was immortal when no one else was. Who wants to explain the science behind the magic behind that? Anyone?
Gonna be you, Maude.
Fick. All right. There's what is it? It's allomancy and what?
Feruchemy.
Alrighty. So allomancy is you burn a metal to obtain the power.
Which you have to ingest.
And then feruchemy sounds like what I would say if I stubbed my toe and I wasn't allowed to swear. Feruchemy.
Crack yourself up.
That's the funniest thing I'll say today. Feruchemy. Oh God, there's a whole. If you go onto Coppermind, which is the Brandan Sanderson wiki, there's just pages of this. From my understanding, Feruchemy store the power.
So
in a metal. Feruchemy.
I can give it a shot if you want.
Yeah, do it.
So with feruchemy and allomancy, I'll start with feruchemy. It can only be used by the user. Like Vin and Sazed talked about it. Why couldn't Vin burn Sazed's metals that he used as his metal mines?
Yes.
And that's because they don't belong to her. They're not essentially spiritually bound to her. So when an allomancer is also a feruchemist, that means the metals that they store in their metal mines are bound to them, and they then have access to them when burning. And so I don't remember exactly which metal it was. Was it atium that stores youth? I think that's what the Lord Ruler had. His armbands were atium.
Yeah.
But
and that
anyway,
would keep him young, yeah.
And that would keep him young because he had those armbands stuck into his body so he could use the metal burning them while also storing into them. The burning of that metal that's already bound to him, that's storing his life force, essentially changes the outcome of what the metal does. It's not just giving the atium shadows like Vin would normally see. It's compounding the effect of the storage of life. So, you put in, say, a day's worth of life, and when you burn it, you get back 10 days worth. So that essentially
creates
gives them
an
a near
immortality.
infinite supply. Yes. It's not completely infinite because there are diminishing returns over time, and he would have died eventually on his own.
I do think, though, that like when you look at what is the oh gosh, I'm blanking out because I've had most of my wine. The Sazed is a talisman.
Terraceman.
Terraceman. A talisman, something else, Maude. He's a terraceman, and hearing the Blue Reader girl, you must be new around here. As an Australian, I just don't want to have to get up again, so I just pour a big one. But I have big sips. That's how that go. Terracemans, the way that they are able to kind of like deplete their power to store it, to then ramp it back up again, I thought that was such a lovely way to complement this other set of magic, because it's like the same sort of like chemistry behind it, but done in opposite ways. And so it absolutely made sense. And I think we're looking again at this culture. Why were terracemen so threatening to the Lord Ruler? Why did they have to be killed? What is it about their power? But I love that it's just kept to them as a species, a race, it's something that is only for them. But going back to, I believe it's Avery's initial comment on the magic, where it's like all of these things come at a cost. Terracemen are eunuchs, so they had that taken away from them because their role is so important, and they didn't want to create more of them. It's just another way to oppress an entire race of people.
I mean, the whole history is so well documented and fleshed out, though, in the books. I kept trying to poke holes in it a little bit, and I just couldn't.
And that's a sign of really good fantasy writing.
Right.
Because it's not real, but it's real. Like, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
It's not like it's magic just because.
And I love the idea that for the ferrochemists, like Says, I pronounced it Says as well. So Sazeds, if he wanted better eyesight and to be able to see far, he would have to pour his eyesight into a copper mine, I guess, or into a piece of metal, and therefore his eyesight would become horrible for a short amount of time, and would store it up and things like that. Whereas allomancers, ingest a small thing and they use it and that's it, and they have to replenish. Like you said, I think that's such a cool system, and those two sides of it make perfect sense in tandem as well. It's just so well done, and it's you can picture it and you go, okay, I buy it. I'm with you. Yeah, I understand. And now I understand why that works and that doesn't, and so on. It's just great.
Because we're talking about the Lord Ruler's powers, let's talk about the Lord Ruler himself and what we got to learn about him at the end. Something that happens at the start of every chapter is an excerpt from the journal is read. And the first half of the book, there is no journal. So you're reading these words being like, what the heck? What is this? It's got nothing to do with what we're talking about. And then we realize this journal is discovered, and that Sazed is translating it. And then by the end of the book, we're realizing who this person is, and it's the Lord Ruler's initial journey, or Rashek, as we learn his name to be. And we look at his final moments before he dies, and something doesn't add up, and his journal entries just kind of abruptly stop. And it's Vin who realizes, not this nuggin. I did not pick up on it at all twice. But it's her that goes, oh my gosh, you're the Sherpa. You're not the person that was supposed to make the transition into being the Lord Ruler. You weren't supposed to go into the Well of Ascension and garner all these powers. You're the wrong person. The person that was trained and, it was the destiny of who was supposed to be the Lord Ruler was to provide balance. And because you are so selfish and you murdered someone to take this power, and Clever Girl has a really great comment, it was so tragic that Rashek felt the need to almost destroy his own people just to protect his secret. We have the result of hundreds and hundreds of years of the wrong person having absolute power. And that is a really, really frightening thought. Yeah. So, Jake, when learning about the Lord Ruler and his immortality and the fact that he was young and old at the same time, we were led to believe that this was an indestructible person. How did you find the takedown of the Lord Ruler through Vin's, I guess, deductions of it all?
I loved it. I mean, I wondered that while reading too. I think somebody in chat was saying that before, is they were wondering about or maybe you mentioned it, his immortality, and like questioned it a little bit throughout the book, and I also questioned it and would stop and think about it and could not figure it out. And I never put the two types of metal magic, as it were, together into one sort of being. Nor did I, conclude that it was the Sherpa, like you said. I wondered though, because the whole time he reads as this divine being who isn't worried about the little people and their rebellions, but then at the same time has taken such drastic measures to protect it, that you go, something doesn't add up here. And I mean, I think we were very intentionally led to believe that, where we were presented with the rules of the game of this world, and we could see how long the Ska had been oppressed for, and we could see what they believed because of that oppression, and what the nobility believed because of their place in society, and how they flourished, and how they did this and did that. And throughout it all, the Lord Ruler was there overseeing and keeping a very heavy hand on it through the Steel Inquisitors, through the Obligators, through everything else. But there were measures in place. There were fail-safes that we were kind of, I don't know. I guess the hat was kind of tipped in our favor a little bit if we knew where to look. And I didn't pick up on it properly, but I was curious, and I did suspect something is clearly amiss here. The immortality cannot be as it's described and as it's presented, rather. So I thought he was a great villain, and I actually really liked the journal entries at the start and being confused by them.
I didn't.
Only to then when I know you hated it. Only to then when it clicked to go back and go, oh shit, like.
But I don't think that having you in the dark for half a book and then making that realization at the 11th hour, that payoff to me wasn't enough. And I'd like to open that up to the chat as well if anyone's got thoughts on it. Go on. But how?
Well, I was just gonna say, but how would you have done it then? Because that's a lot of information. Would you have rather
as soon as you have the journal
all at once?
As soon as you have the journal, and so I would actually piece it so that it was says at the start of each chapter the part that he had, like a portion of what he had translated. It's just the first half of the book we didn't have it, and that was that felt obnoxious to me.
You would keep those intros, but only after they obtained the journal.
Yes.
Got it.
Look, I'm happy to be the minority for that line of thought. J Bunt Rock says I loved it. So I know Jake, you loved it. So that's good.
I did, but I love puzzles and things of that nature anyway.
I like combat.
Maybe a little too much. I know, I played enough D&D with you, I know. But I love solving puzzles, and I love racing to solve puzzles, and so it was a similar thing with the Lord Ruler and his immortality. I would read those, and I knew I was supposed to be paying attention to them. I wanted to understand them, and I didn't understand them, but instead of being irked by it, I kind of appreciated it and was racing against myself to try to piece it together before it was laid out.
We had absolutely no sense of what it could possibly be.
No, of course. I agree.
So it's like once the journal's obtained, lay it on me, not the whole book. Avery loved it. Vaidin enjoyed it.
But it was like Kelsier knowing the whole plan and just giving what was needed, as you know what I mean? It was the same type of mindset. It was like you then go back from square one and you go, oh my gosh.
I appreciate rereadability. And like you even said, when we find out that Kelsier was aware of the game plan and he knew exactly what he was doing and he was 10 steps ahead of all of us, it makes you want to go back and be like, oh my God, that bastard, look at him. He really knew. This is all... Like, the only giveaway was that time where Vin has severe abandonment issues and she was like, you're going to leave me too, aren't you? And he was like, no. Absolutely not. Yeah.
I don't want to pivot too much when you're asking for participation on current topics either, but I do want to come back at some point during this conversation to Kelsier and maybe that's a good reminder of what he told Vin and her abandonment issues and things like that.
Oh yeah.
Remind me of that. Bring us back around.
I will. I want to get Michelle to talk about a comment that she brought up about the world of the book. The book, setting us up for I'm losing the comment. Come back. Actually, Michelle, do you just want to jump on and explore that a little bit more? The one where you said the world of the book sets you up to adopt its assumptions?
Sure. So there's like clear divisions between people in the book, right? And even though they're all human, and
the noble don't even know that the Scar are human.
They think they're livestock, right? And then they think that the terracemen are something completely different. They think that they are alien to each other, even though they're not. And, we as readers know they're not because, well, they interbreed. And we know that. And there is no reason why we can't make the same conclusions about the noblemen and the Scott and the terracemen, but we don't because the world sets us up to not believe that, even though we have two prime examples that it's not true. So I just think it's so clever to do that. And you're like, oh, there's something going on here about, about that. And like, the only way to divide people, the only real reason to divide people is to keep everyone weaker than they should be.
Yes. Yep. I actually recently discovered at a previous workplace that I was at, and you guys don't know it, but the guy who had all the power, who was at the top of it all, realized that we all knew more than him. So he kept us all apart so that he could keep control of us. Because he realized that if we started talking, we would all know that he was wrong and we knew more and we would usurp. So that is actually something that happens in workplaces as well. Ain't that fucked? That's a great, I agree with you completely, Michelle, especially the part where the first half of the book's through Vin's point of view, and Vin is a Scar, and you know that they're absolutely normal, but then to hear the nobleman kind of like question everything, and it's like, gosh, they are so protected, and then you're like, no, this is how propaganda is effective. This is the sky is blue. Is it? I think it's green. No, it's clearly blue. No, it's green actually. It's that whole 1984 syndrome. Yes, and that's, I think, why this book can be so freaking heavy. Because logic and common sense is no longer applicable.
And because of that, you do, I mean, probably on an individual basis, you do make connections based on whatever you're feeling or whatever you're seeing or your own histories and experiences. So even though it is such a far removed world, because so much care has gone into its construction, and you do see those lines in society and things like that, I think it is very easy to start drawing connections and then become disheartened and a little maybe disenfranchised with some things that in our world, I don't know. And so that's a scary thing. That's a scary train of thought to follow as well.
Colleen makes a really great point. The Scar have been beaten down for so long that they've started to believe in their own inferiority. Yeah, and I think that's something that could have happened in America's history. That's something that the foundation was sort of built for that. And it's like, up to us to realize the Scar aren't different. You just treated them really, really poorly and said that they were an object for a portion of time. So we got to kind of remind each other that we're all on the same page with this. Yeah, Pianki says the darker sides of human nature. It's all entirely plausible. Whew. Alrighty, so you want to chat about Kelsier and Vin's relationship?
Not even so much that, but something that you said there I knew would remind me. When we were talking about Kelsier knowing the plan and Vin having severe abandonment issues and being afraid to get close to him, and I was going to bring it up before that as part of the plan, Kelsier got all of these members of the crew. Each person played a role,
Like a good
and
heist should. Yes.
like a good heist should. And we had touched on the fact previously that he had lost Mare. He thought he had lost Marsh. And that people were saying he had nothing left to lose. And so this was his final attempt at really changing the world and righting it, perhaps, through immense sacrifice, both of others and himself. But I'm curious to see what people think on whether or not, because I'd love to know, and this is an aspect of Kelsier that I really loved, and I don't know that I have a full decision on this myself. Do you think that the members of the crew, and Vin especially, as she learned to trust him and he instilled that in her, did he keep them all emotionally at arm's length? Do you think really the only people he genuinely did care about and love properly were Mare and his brother Marsh? Or do you think he allowed himself to get close to people knowing what would happen? Or do you think that was part of why he would put a smile on and brush it aside and not include them because all of a sudden that would potentially jeopardize his endgame? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, because my answer is both. But before I get stuck into that, who wants to try and tackle that one? Do you think that Kelsier was purposely keeping them
put up his
at
own walls,
to protect them, and did see them as kind of like not pawns on the board, but like actually gave them purpose to have a real task once he was gone? So he was setting up the play so that they all, like, everything was taken care of and there was momentum and direction for him to leave, but didn't want to pull them in too close because he knew that he was going to die.
And I think he cared for them. I don't doubt that, but I wonder if he cared for them to a point to protect both them and himself, knowing that this end game was coming.
I feel that Kelsier definitely loved them to a point because, much like you've mentioned before, Kaz of Six of Crows, like he does have.
You got to read the book, Jake.
Caring...
It's really good.
I'll read it. I'll check it out for sure.
Yes, it's a very good book, and the show's good too. But that's not the point. The like he keeps people at arm's length. He's aware of their abilities. He knows how to talk to them. He knows how to use them, much like a coach doing a football team. That's the way it seemed. It seemed like he was a maestro, just telling people, like, not necessarily showing his cards and whatnot, but maybe in certain moments being vulnerable, but for the most part keeping a cold demeanor.
Yep. So that the answer is both. A bit of both. Blue Reader Girl says, "Oh, Vin noticed a change in Kelsier, but I think he did keep an I think he did kept an arm's length most of the time. He had his moments where he felt it. He did care for his crew." Avery, you've jumped in as well. Do you want to unmute and explore your answer?
Yeah. I was just saying that I also agree that it was probably a bit of both. That I think he cares very deeply for everybody, but I think because of what happened with Mare, I think he's almost afraid of it. So he tries to keep them more at arm's length and to keep them out of things. Because even when Vin followed him to the palace at one time and she almost got hurt, like he was clearly very upset about that, and he was blaming himself. So yeah, I think it's fear that's keeping him like pushing people away. But I think despite that, he still does care for everybody very deeply.
It's interesting bringing the mayor part in it, because there was a really beautiful part. And like when you're trying to learn about Kelsier, and I was struggling with like this rampant ego that was happening. But then when talking about Mare, his wife, who he thought betrayed him, he said, I still love her. I'm always going to love her. Just because someone completely betrays you doesn't mean the love stops at that particular point. And I'm so grateful for what I had with her, that even though it ended in betrayal, and that betrayal killed her, because she didn't last. She got beaten to death at the mines in front of him. Oh, that's awful. But he goes, I'm just so, I love that I had that. And it's that kind of love that we have to hold on to. And I was like, this is a good leader, because he has respect for life. He has respect for love. And I think that that's a really important part. Michelle, you made an amazing comment here. I'd love for you to read it and dig deeper.
Oh, the one about the 300?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I said, if you ask people to come die with you, then you're all going to die. Like 300. Leonidas asked his best friends, hey, we can't let this stand.
Maybe
we're all going to die, but we're all going to die. Yeah. But that's his goal, right? It's all about goals. And if your goal is that you want to have lasting change, you need to set that up. You need to be prepared for that. And that's why he arranged his crew like he did, I think. But I think Kelsier is also just in a different place than literally everyone else, like personally, mentally, emotionally. Like he should have died. He knows he should have died. And I think he sees very little. He's okay with dying, but it's tough to be in a place where your friends aren't like that,
Yeah.
Like you can't, if your friends have good lives, but you want to ask them to come help you do something that's really tough, it's hard. It's a hard ask.
It's so funny. Oh, I just got distracted with 300 quotes. I've lost it. It was good. Just trust me that it was good.
Oh,
Jake?
So good.
Yeah.
No, I mean, again,
I had it. I got it. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
bring
I
it on
needed you
back.
to start talking for me to remember it. It's weird.
I love it.
I was saying it's like, because he got a second chance at life after the mines, because he escaped. Like he became a hero because of that alone. But he was able to do what no one else had done before. He snapped. He escaped the mines. So basically he got a second chance at life. But instead of seeing it at a second chance of life, he treated it as borrowed time.
Yes.
Told you it was good. Told you.
That is good.
Keep going.
That's really good. Well, and I mean, I don't want to just ramble on about how much I love Kelsier too. There are so many aspects of him that feel so human. And for somebody who feels, at least to me while reading, so human, to then be such a great leader despite the human flaws, I think is what makes it so admirable and so interesting. And I agree with everything that you all have said. I think that very well said. It was borrowed time. That is how he treated it. And I was curious about his emotional attachment to those around him. And I love what everybody's been saying about that as well, and that it was kind of a little column A, a little column B, and I think ultimately I agree with that. But there are so many, like, we've talked about so much now, and I just want to dissect it all and discuss it all. But going back to Mare, what you were saying, Maude, about how he was sure she betrayed him and was explaining to Vin that, like, that doesn't mean the love stops there, like you said. To me,
I want that.
That's not, but that's almost not like, I don't know. I look at that trait and I don't go, oh, that's a real hero. I'm like, man, that's a human who couldn't turn it off right away. Like, that's not necessarily even an admirable thing. It's just he felt so strongly that he's like, to me, I read that as, if I could have turned it off and made it less heartbreaking, I would have, but that's just not how we operate. And so I'm clinging to the good that we had and holding on to that. So you want to jump in, please.
There was
please.
uncertainty. Because there was uncertainty, it wasn't 100% that she betrayed him. Mare betrayed Kelsier.
Yeah, it's true.
Because of the uncertainty, he chose the best case scenario. Even though, she might have, but it's not going to, taint what we had. It's not going to destroy all of our beautiful moments on a maybe. That's what love is. You believe the best.
And it's so easy to not. It's so easy to just to become so jaded, and maybe that doesn't even mean that you stop loving right away. Maybe, you know, you still struggle with those, but it's so easy to go, no, that was I'm forget it. I'm done. Like, I'm jaded by the whole thing, and to go through life with a completely different outlook. And he didn't, and man, that's tough. That's tough, and I respect it.
Vaidin, great feeling, great comment, and talks about another sort of parallel part of this. Do you want to jump in and explore that comment you just wrote?
Sure. So basically, yeah, like Vin had the same idea as him. You know, like in a lot of ways they were, you know, the mentor and the like daughter relationship, but you know they were very much opposites and very much the same in many ways. And this is one of the ways they were the same. Like she loved Ellen, and when he tried to get rid of her, essentially, you know, he tried to shoo her off essentially and be kind of rude to her to get rid of her. She still felt the same way about him, and she told a spook about that later on. She's like, you know, I know you like me, but I still love this guy, Ellen, regardless.
He's pushed me away. He's cut me off. He's separated me from him. He's given me no good reason for it. He's just shut me out. I still want him. I still love him. And then you find Ellen's true reasoning behind that. He's trying to protect her.
Yeah.
And the parallels.
So many
right
little
there.
life lessons.
Parallels right there. Chris has made a really great comment. I would love to get into this. What do you think about the emotional manipulating powers of writing and soothing? I tell you what, if I had them, there'd be trouble.
Why? Go on. Explain that one.
I don't think I would feel too bad using them.
Well, I mean, that's discussed in great detail in the books too, right? Is you can't make somebody feel something that they don't already feel.
Mm-hmm. It's
right.
Just
so that's
nudge.
established early on. It's right. It's fanning the flames or smothering them of what is already there.
Yeah.
Which is just another beautifully written thing. Is because now we take sides, right? We as human beings, we go. I feel like you either say, well, you're still manipulating, you're still interfering, or you're Maude Garrett and you go, it's all fair because
you know what it is. It's I see it as I don't think I'm very emotionally manipulative as a person. And I have friends that are really, really good at it. And I see the successes, like they don't do it out of vindictiveness. They do it to make people feel better about themselves. They do it to connect people. They do it in a networking kind of way. My problem is my number one thing in my life is authenticity. So manipulations and lies and like doing things to get a result in a non-authentic way irks the crap out of me. So if I had this ability, because I cannot do it verbally, I do not know how to be manipulative in that particular way. If I were to literally have a power to help me with that, because I cannot verbalize it, that would be kind of cool. Is it dangerous? Avery kind of prompts. Yeah, it is. Would I be more successful? Would I be in a relationship? Would I have more money? Yes, I would. Because I ain't going to get it for me. I need that little power that's just like, I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to make you, ooh, there it is. You already were thinking it. I'm just going, boop. That is true, okay. Thierry. That is absolutely true. All's fair in love and war.
There you go.
Hearing Breeze talk about it was a bit icky, I'll be real. Like hearing Breeze be like, oh, but darling, if I don't do it, someone else will. Or, you know, whatever his reasoning is behind it. It felt icky to hear it. I'll be honest.
But again, do you think, and I'm not defending or attacking Breeze, but do you think that that's, as a character whose only special ability involves soothing or rioting emotions, do you think that that's the justification that if you were overall a goodish person, I know there's a lot of neutral and neutrality on this team sometimes, but I think we all probably agree that they all lean towards good, which is why they agreed to do this job.
Breeze just wants a drink. He will use it to get people to serve and wait on him.
But but he has found a way to justify it to himself, like you were saying. Oh, darling, if I don't do it, somebody else will. Right? Like, he's found a way to justify it, and therefore it's disconnected from the people he's manipulating.
Yeah.
He wouldn't call it manipulation, I don't think. I think
He
he
just
would call
asked
it
nicely. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, everybody's so well written. Damn it, Sanderson.
It is an interesting take on it, though. Again, I don't. One of my gripes with this and the magic is I thought that you should be able to possess both balance. So why would you only have push if you couldn't pull? Why riot if you couldn't soothe? And I think that, we talk with this magic, there's so much balance in the world. There's also a balance to allomancy, which is the and so to not have not have both of them felt a bit. It's like Mistborn or bust.
Loved it, and I'm going to tell you why. Because it goes back to what I was saying before. I'm just a big old nerd who loves puzzles, and so to me, I kind of love it. It made everybody feel less like a superhero and more like a piece of a puzzle.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
right,
And the
yeah.
fact that it was different metals. They were complementary metals, but it was a different metal that was being ingested and burned for those situations or for those results. That didn't bother me, and I can absolutely see where you're coming from, and I don't think that that's I think that that's a justified feeling. But I liked that it was kind of split down the middle, and that you didn't have a bunch of people in capes running around with these awesome abilities, that they had to be strategic in their use. They had to work together, and each pro came with a con unless they were Mistborn, and even then, it's not using the force, it's not telekinesis, it's you have there's math involved. You have to see 3 pieces ahead on the board and you have to react so quickly in order to really be as capable as Kelsier or Vin has started to become by the end of this book in order to defeat the Lord Ruler. And so I actually really liked that, because it felt that these amazing abilities somehow didn't feel quite so overpowered.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. And I liked that. And that's why it became a little bit more heist and not like freaking Super Saiyans just taking down the city. Yeah, I get that.
Right.
Black Wolf is a first-time chatter, says, isn't education a form of manipulation? This is the thing. I think manipulation can get, because more often than not, it's a negative thing. When you're being manipulated, it sounds slightly against a will, or there's an unawareness of something happening. And I think that's exactly what this soothe and riot is. It's, wait, you are provoking a response from me that I haven't necessarily consented to. And I think that's the gray area that we deal with. Education, I mean, although one would argue there can be no consent sometimes, especially if you're forced into the education regime, there is a willingness to learn, or you're trying to impart knowledge. But I think that with Jake and my industry, there is a butt ton of manipulation that happens. There is, I believe the best in you. We'll chat. Let's get lunch. It's all a lot of smoke and mirrors, just words. And it's, yeah.
Could I jump on that and posit another question, perhaps?
Yeah.
Yes. I love hearing people's opinions on this, and Maude, I'd love to hear yours as well. Because I bring this up because you and I have had very specific discussions about this in the past throughout our friendship, and in relation to our industry, in relation to people we have both encountered or known or worked with or what have you, because there is a lot of that. And again, this just goes back to, I'm a broken record, but this goes back to why I feel that the writing is so great in these books and the characters are so great, because you start to question bigger things, or I did at least, while reading, and maybe not question, maybe that's not even the right word, but certainly think about, because if rioters and soothers were real, for example, if they existed in the world at large, then the version that we see in the real world right now, I would say, and I'd love opinions, are people like you just mentioned, who kind of know exactly what to say to make you think a certain thing and get you to say yes, and they're the snake oil salesman and things like that, right? And oftentimes, through no fault of anybody's, we fall for it, at least initially, and then we get wise and we go, oh my God, I can't believe I fell for that. How did I read into that? How did I? And we immediately think of that as a negative thing with a negative connotation, and the word manipulation comes to mind.
Yeah.
But then, firstly, on the other side of that, and in the same arena, I would say, are those people who can be very genuinely inspirational and say what is genuinely the right thing at the right time, and maybe produce a similar result, and become and say something that makes us go, wow, I never thought about it that way, and you're right, and you do feel this welling up of motivation, inspiration, determination, and we don't call that manipulation, and
We call it
yet
aspirational. Yeah.
right, and yet it's the same thing. Really, the result, I should say, is the same thing in that.
The intent is what's different.
Agreed. But that's what I mean is it's such a beautifully fine line in the book as well, and I agree with everything you said, by the way. You know me, and you've known me for many years now. Loyalty is something that is so important to me, and it always has been my whole life. And so I try very hard to be extremely loyal to my friends, and as soon as that is broken, it's very hard to repair for me.
Yeah.
So something like intentional manipulation and saying something to produce a result in a selfish nature is something that I really have a hard time overlooking. So I'm not defending it. Please make no mistake. But I do think it's interesting that when you take human emotion out of it and you put it on paper,
Yeah.
they're very, very similar situations. And in fact, like you said, it's the intent behind it, which is a human emotional flaw, really, or characteristic that changes it.
Well said, Lady Chris. It's like Captain America versus Mysterio. And that's the intent
there you
behind
go.
it. Yeah, it's really good. That's super
Yeah, there
nerdy
you
as
go.
well. So you have got you're very welcome here. I think
If I
that,
may interject.
yeah, bud.
Please.
While you were saying this, I may have mentioned it before in a previous book club, but I'm sure that everyone here has at least heard or seen the movie Midsommar.
I've heard of it. I
Okay,
won't watch
well,
it. I won't watch it.
Okay, do you not want me to make this reference then? I could stop then if you want to watch it.
You know how I feel about horror.
Okay, then I'm going to go with it then. Here it is.
There we go.
So basically, this movie is about a girl, right, who joins a cult, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
Now, prior to her joining the cult, she had a very terrible life. She lost her parents. Her boyfriend was being
A dick.
completely unsupportive to her.
Yeah.
You know, so the thing is, though, if the people in her life were more supportive to her, she wouldn't have not joined the cult. But because they pushed her away and the cult was so welcoming and loving bombing her and like supporting her, she ended up being like the queen of the cult
You
because
got a
of
perfect storm. That's it.
that. Yeah, exactly. So like, you know, you have the person's, you know, emotion where they're at their weakest point. They want to be better. So someone comes by and tries to bring them up. You know what I mean? It's
Well,
like
I think I can relate it back to
dangerous
the
cocktail.
book, and that is the
Yeah.
Scar have been treated poorly. The Scar have been
Exactly.
broken down. They've got no one, nothing. And without rioting, which is emotional manipulation, as we've discussed,
Yep.
you are trying to get people that have only despair, that have been told that they are nothing, that have felt worthless, that have no reason to live. You are trying to get them to believe that there is more and that they deserve more. And they cannot do that on their own. So it has to be a skill set, and in this case, a power, to prompt them to believe in a way that they weren't capable of doing because it was removed from them.
Exactly.
But isn't it interesting then that we say that that's a wonderful thing and great and accomplished what needed to be accomplished because of the intent behind it, but it's still Breeze or some other writer or soother doing what they do, which gives us kind of an icky taste in our mouth a little bit in general.
Yeah.
Which goes back to why I love the book.
I mean, going back to if I were to have soothing in writing, I don't think I would do it in a mass way. I don't think I would do it in that sort of with a messiah complex of I can create followers. That's not. I would literally do it where it's like, I heard you've been feeling pretty down lately. I want you to feel better about yourself. And they're like, you know what? Yeah, things are going well. I'll be like, that's right. Or I know that maybe, you're not into 5'11" women, but maybe you are now. And they're like, yeah, you know what? I've got
just fan the curiosity a little bit. Yeah.
I love giants. And you're like, there you go. There you go. So it's just a little bit of a sprucing here and there. Oh, thank you, Black Wolf. That's really sweet. STS says that's how it always starts, with good intentions.
But there's something to be said for that. I mean, and do people in our industry, Maude, who have social media and social media followings, are we not
trying our best
intentionally
to do
or unintentionally doing that to an extent?
Yeah. Do I challenge myself to always be and do better? Yeah. Could I do that with these powers? Yeah. Can I get everyone
just
to
saying, we can talk about this forever.
rescue a dog? Yeah. From high kill shelters? Yeah. So some of the other questions that I've got here, because we've got a little bit of time left.
I've been rambling.
No, it's good. See, it's already worked on Gory. If you can rescue a puppy.
My puppy's a rescue. I'm all for that.
Mine's a rescue. I'm actually thinking about fostering another dog because I know I'm going to be home for Christmas now, here, as in home here.
Oh my gosh.
So
goodness.
There's just there's a lot of shelters are really, really full at the moment. So it's just like, if you can help. So I'm going to do that. There was a question. Who added this question right at the end here in the document? Question: if Allomancers need to have a near-death experience to snap, but only the nobility are supposed to be Allomancers, how do so many of the nobility know that they're Allomancers, considering they live a relatively safe life outside the occasional war? If we were looking for loopholes in all of this world building, that's probably the only one we can find. That was you, Avery. How did you come up with this question? Talk to me.
I don't know. I was just thinking about it one day, and I was like, wait a minute. I think it was when Kelsier, I think either Kelsier or Marsh was talking to Ven about it and talking about when they snapped and everything, and I was like, just thinking about how that related to the House Wars, and I was just wondering, with Shan Alariel. She is super rich, super privileged. I doubt she had ever been in any serious situation, but she's a full-on Mistborn and is fully trained, so is known for a long time.
Did someone talk back to her and she was like, and had a heart attack?
Exactly. So I was just wondering, if there is something in there that I missed, or if this is talked about ever, or if that's just maybe, I don't know, we're not supposed to ask those people questions.
Lisa's got a response.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lisa, you've got a follow-up to it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not that they have to have a near-death experience, because Kelsier didn't almost die when he snapped. His snap was a mental snap, because he watched Mare be beaten to death, and that was his kind of awakening. So I don't think it has to do with anything physical happening to you. I think it can be physical, mental. It's just got to be something profound that's changing your life, kind of thing.
It goes back to Avery's kind of thought with it all, though, which is if you live in quite a sheltered and privileged life, they're not going to see people be beaten to death. They're taught that Scar are less than, if not livestock, which was a great analogy. So you wouldn't actually have that traumatic feeling. What could Shan have experienced as a child Are they so protected that running out of a cereal that you enjoy eating in the morning is enough to snap?
Well, we also know that, House Venture and stuff, that Straff,
Yeah.
we touched on this, treated Ellen very specific ways as a child, and so who knows? I mean, I don't say to defend a potential loophole, but because I'm curious now, I agree. I think that's a great question. But also we see a little glimpse behind the curtain that the nobility has gone to great lengths through house wars, through manipulation, through lies and deceit, and presenting the world with a veneer that all is well only in their house and that sort of thing, despite the turmoil and the drama and assassination attempts and everything else between the houses. So I think, yes, that's a very good point, that they are pampered and that they are, live a life of luxury and comfort and opulence, but also we know that they're very cutthroat within their own circles as well.
Ah, Black Wolf, thanks for the sub. That's really sweet. I appreciate that. Lady Chris is actually saying that it is explored. The snap itself is explored later in the books, in later books. Jake, can you confirm or deny?
I'm reading the third book right now. There are many things that are explored, and you think that we've gotten a pretty in-depth history and look at the world in book one, and I agree, and I think that in book two as well, and so far in book three, that only continues. So
okay.
I don't specifically remember something about the snap per se, but there's a lot of things that are explored.
Michelle says, with all the protocol stuff, the weird protocol stuff, I bet there's some sort of weird test, a la the Bene Gesserit in Dune, sort of thing that every noble goes through at a young age. So is there a test or a trial maybe that they go through to kind of like incite the snap? That's a really good assessment. And Vaidin says the same thing. I wonder, it makes you wonder if there's like a boarding school for Allomancers to be sent to get their powers. That's the thing. It's like a roll of the dice. You don't really know who's got it. And it's a small minority. J. Bunt Rock has a question. How did you like Vin's transformation into Valette? Jake?
I liked it. I felt for her while we were along that journey, and I was curious as to her mindset and how she was feeling and experiencing it all. I was surprised at first that she was sent in with the background and the lack of experience in that specific type of skill set that she had, but she was, a street urchin and a thief, and clearly.
Are you using D&D terminology?
No, well, not intentionally. You're right.
Yeah, street urchin is a backstory that you're able to choose for a character.
No, it's true.
I know that because my thief was a street urchin.
Oh, there you go. But so I was surprised that she was sent in and trusted with something so important as that. And I thought she did a great job. And I found myself ready to be bored out of my mind during all of those scenes and really enjoying them.
In my research, a lot of guys really didn't like that she stopped being super assassin-y. Liked her transition into Mistborn a lot more than they liked her transition into her ball life. Personally, big fan of Alias, and she became a double agent. And that to me was super exciting.
I agree. What's not to like about that? I think that she was a badass. I think she did great.
While also going, oh my God, I'm catching feels. Where I'm like, yes, now we've got love interest. Yay.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Did you like Elend? Elend? It helps me. Yep. It just helps me. Helps me.
Helped you or not. Was it necessary on the stream? I don't know. Drink some more wine. Not initially. Initially, I was intrigued by the fact that he didn't seem to be all into the shallow, protocol and song and dance of the nobility. I liked that. But he wasn't the most interesting part of her going undercover to me at the start, and then as that blossomed and furthered, I thought it was great, and I was cheering for both of them.
I really
And
liked
wanting,
Dylan.
yeah. No, I liked him a lot.
A guy who's going to go to a
Yeah.
ball, defy his parents because the whole thing is just really quite arduous, and read a book in the corner.
Yep, I agree.
Lisa says she's a sucker for romance. Get out. You, Lise? You? Lisa and I have bonded extensively over our love of YA novels, especially when there is a, let's call it a love interest. Let's call it smart.
You're right there.
Smart. Ellen's a little old for her. Yeah, she's young, and she looks young as well. Especially in the book, Michael Kramer puts on a really like deep, older voice for him, and that made it feel a little bit weird.
I thought he was like a couple years older than her, though.
He's 21, she's 16.
Oh, I guess it is.
That's
there's a little bit of a gap.
That's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Hold on, real quick question. Who reads at a party? Avery asks. Jake, you ever read at a party?
No, I've read instead of going to a party.
Yeah. Have I read at a party?
You know me, I'm not a big party person, so yeah.
I feel like I've done it. Yeah, and then everyone kept trying to talk to me because it was like interesting that I was reading, and I'm like, that's not the point of me reading. It's not to start the conversation.
There's nothing worse, too, when you're like in a book and people go,
What is it?
So what are you reading? What's it about? And you're like, please stop, please stop.
It's really terrible and you'd hate it. Yeah. I love that that's the most relatable thing that we've spoken about this evening.
So
that's
true.
Great.
Yes, unless it's a D&D party theory.
So you liked and I liked the stuff. Who wants to chat about Vin's sort of balance between being a Mistborn, being an assassin, and then being a lady of these parties? And I actually will go one further and talk about the relationship with Shan. Knowing that Shan's a Mistborn, knowing that she's been training her whole life, and then that showdown that took place where Vin fucking kills Shan. She kills her.
That one shocked me, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
Not so much the reveal that Shan was Mistborn. I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay, I'm in. That's awesome. But the death surprised me.
I think what was interesting to me is that it wasn't Vin acting out of spite, being like, you talk down to me, you made me feel lesser than, you were a bully, and that's why I have to, like, I've got an opportunity to end it. So, like, Shan could have been like, let me go. And she's like, no, because you're awful. It wasn't like that at all. It was, she felt threatened. Shan was going to kill Ellen. And there was like no other answer. It was like, you're going to kill him. I have to kill you. That was it. It was as simple as that. Lisa says, she didn't even want to fight. She tried to leave.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, Colleen, let's chat about that. There are a lot of hints about Vin's unusual strength. We have seen time and time again Kelsier be surprised at how quickly she picks things up. She does one-on-one training with everyone else in their specific powers.
Specialization, yeah.
Colleen, do you have any theories as to why she is borderline OP?
My theory is, since she seemed to have some of the same abilities as the Lord Ruler, I'm wondering if maybe she has some ancestry with ferrochemy.
Me.
Yeah.
It helps. It helps. Just as
yes. Ferrous chemistry.
Yeah.
The science stuff coming out. But I kind of wonder if maybe she doesn't have, like Lord Ruler had both of those capabilities. So I'm thinking somewhere in her background, because we know so little of her background, that perhaps there is that ability also that she has yet to tap into.
Oh, okay. So you haven't read the rest of the books, have you?
I've only read this first one.
I mean, these are the questions that we want to have going into book 2 and 3. Yeah, Lisa's like, lips are sealed. So, Colleen, you and I were absolutely on the right path. And all the questions that we have them for a reason. Which means Jake can't have this conversation either. I don't think it's a Mary Sue thing. We know who her mum was unstable. Dad got killed for his infidelity. Dad was quite high up in the scheme of things.
That's right. I forgot her dad was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is she saying? Jimmy says that Reen taught Vin well.
Taught her to survive.
More to survive and to not trust. Yeah. And to disassociate and to toughen her up, you know. Isn't that the worst thing ever? If you want to survive, you can't have attachments. And there's been so many studies where it's like, you know, in order for us to stay sane, we need physical contact. We need love. We need, you know, to belong. And in this instance, you have to unlearn all of those naturally sort of like inherent things as a form of survival.
Yeah, so true.
Colleen, did I miss a question? You said,
I tried to, when I hit enter, apparently I deleted everything I typed.
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
You were like, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, I'm old. My granddaughter says I can't use that as an excuse for everything.
You can, Colleen.
I'm pretty sure I can. So,
you can. You
anyway,
certainly can here.
Yeah, I was wondering how it was that the Inquisitor knew or suspected that Tavidian, the obligator, was her father. She didn't know until Reen pointed it out to her. But
did
somehow...
Did Reen talk about it during his torture?
Oh, possibly. Oh, that's a good point. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure it out if there was something there that showed him.
We don't talk about that
like
either. Reen's torture, and he kept her secret. He protected her even through the worst torture out there. Like his whole existence, he made Vin think that everyone hated him, that he was even going to leave her, that everyone was out to get her, that she was borderline worthless as well. But when push came to shove, or when torture came to Reen, he didn't break. And she didn't find out about that afterwards.
Oh, that's so sad.
I know, because he remained this voice in her head. Oh, I have a feeling I'm going to have a relationship like that with my brother. How he's like, no. And then like, I'll find out that he like really stood up for me this whole time when I thought that he didn't. Ah, Darcy, if you're watching. Oh, this is therapy hour again, isn't it? God damn it. Siblings are the best. They're okay. In this book, they're only okay as well. I don't know. It's a weird one, but it was an absolute head. How do you say head fuck without saying head fuck? It was.
Well, you just said it twice, so.
True. Lisa says, I think so, but I thought that they thought she was dead, so there was nothing that they could do about it.
True, yeah.
She didn't think that he loved her until it was too late. Yeah. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, we crushed it. We really nailed that together. That was good. Earlier, True Scorn asked, and we did this in our part 1, but Jake, what power would you want to have?
Ooh. Oh, gosh. I think that, and we can't say Mistborn, right? We have to choose one because it goes back to what we were talking about where like, maybe you can push, but you can't pull, that sort of thing.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, by the way, I see that we have a little bit of a bump in numbers. What's up? Every month, Geek Bomb chooses a book to read. This month, it is Mistborn by Brandan Sanderson. We have a guest, Jake Stormoen, talking about this particular book. It is all spoilers. Welcome. A big hi. Feel free to follow Jake. He'll write something in the chat very soon so you can see Jay Stormoen and give him a follow.
Oh, hi.
If you're interested in talking about books every month, give Geek Bomb a follow. And welcome. I was buying you time as well, Jake. So your answer, please.
I know. Well, because I love the idea of being able to push and pull and how they just friggin' soar through the air with that. I think that's the coolest way to travel, and I love seeing these kind of grapple anchors that they can pull themselves up to, and just kind of the freedom that allows. I think is such a cool thing. But if you're not Mistborn and you can only do one,
what's the point?
I agree,
Yeah.
But again, I love that in the book. But so what would I choose then? I don't know. Maybe it would be like what would have real world application and benefits. And I don't want to say soothing or rioting because of the discussion we had on that, but that feels like the most applicable ability, other than maybe being like a thug and being able to just dish it out and take a beating.
To be fair with thugs, like you have endurance. So
Yeah.
like if you wanted to run, you could keep running.
I know, that's pretty awesome.
I initially chose pewter for exactly that reason, where I was just like, but now I'm starting to lift and I got these guns. So it's like, do I want to keep getting like strong like that? I just thought that pewter was, out of all the powers, the one that kept you alive the longest. Like if you were here to survive, like if you had any sort of illness, if you got a bit cold.
True, actually, isn't it? Yeah, that's true.
You would burn pewter and it would just.
It just kicks the body into, all right. All right. See, you've sold me on it. Pewter then.
But if I were to be a soother, I would 100% be a therapist. Like I would just make everyone's lives
good on you.
A bit better in that way. Tinai is coming up in the comments quite a lot. Michelle, Lady Chris, and Avery all saying that Tin would be pretty good. Tinai, because you're able to see a little bit further, hear a lot further as well. It's like a perfect
enhance those senses.
It's a perfect scout ability. You could see in the dark.
It's true.
I don't know. I'd also be the kind of person it's like, whoever wins an arm wrestle has to get dinner, and they're like, there's no way. And I'm like, oh, okay. Burn pewter. Yeah. How did you do that? I don't know. I'm not sure. Colleen, what would you have?
Oh, God.
Oh, are you more sensitive to pain? Oh, I'm already a little bish when it comes to pain.
Everything is enhanced when burning tin, yeah.
Oh, so you would... Oh.
And usually, like Mistborn will burn pewter to then kind of negate that, right?
Yeah. Sorry, Colleen. What would you be?
I kind of my initial reaction, I would go with soother. There's just so many people I know that seem to need soothing of some kind or other. But I also love the idea of pewter. You kind of sold me on that one. So one of those two, I would say. And I like what you said about as a soother being a therapist. I think that would be really good. As a parent, I think you do that anyway, or a teacher,
Yeah.
True, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it'd be so handy for teachers. Oh, if all teachers had soothing abilities, yeah. Teachers need to get paid so much more. Teachers are worth more than they are told.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Let's do a last round of questions. Anything about the book that we haven't touched upon? There's one in my notes, but it's about Marsh. Meh. It was a bit of a twist. Faked his death. He came back. He destroyed the Inquisition. Inquisitors. Yeah. Because they have like a stake through the heart or through the spine. And so you remove that and they crumple. Again, it's going back to Brandon Sanderson's, like, everything comes at a cost. Everything has a weakness. There is a chink in the armor, so to speak. So if you can find that weakness, you can destroy the thing. I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Does anyone have a question that we haven't touched upon? Something about this book that you wanted to explore? A character that we haven't mentioned yet? Is Spook an appropriate nickname? Anyone?
I was just wondering. Yes,
Yes.
I was just wondering what your opinions on Breeze were. You know, the
I think he's
member
a bit
of
of a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he
Because-
wanted to be noble, but I think for non-noble reasons. If that makes sense. I think he's
no.
really quite accustomed to positioning himself as better than others. And I have a problem with that. Jake?
On the surface, I agree. He's the kind of person that I would sit at the other side of the room from if I was part of that crew. Yeah. I feel like he seems to like hearing himself talk, and I've met a lot of people like that, and I'm not typically a huge fan. But I also then trust in Kelsier, right? And why he would bring somebody like that on board. And I think Breeze is effective, and when it comes down to it, I think Breeze is probably a little softer than he lets on. And so
That's because he won't get his hands dirty.
Yeah, you might be right.
The question's asking, because I brought up Spook, what does everyone think of Spook? Lisa loves Spook. If we're going to talk about world building flaws, how Spook has such a different vocabulary to the point where it is indecipherable, but they all live in the same region, right? Because no one else in the book talks like Spook. But like it is.
Well, but he grew up far away, did he not? And was brought in.
Got it. Okay.
I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure he was what's his face nephew and was brought in, right?
Yeah. Wasting it was.
Yeah, wasting it.
Wasting it was. Yeah. Sometimes it would remind me. I used to have a list until like I lost too many phones, but I would have a list of, and I still have it now. I will say something and someone goes, "What? What are you saying?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's another one. That's another saying that I have that America's never heard of that doesn't make any sense." Like my list was long. It would be something like
just Aussieisms?
Yeah, like I would rock up to a party and they're like, "You rock up?" Yeah, you rock up, you show up, you rock up to a party, and if the party goes well, you kick on. And you're like, "What do you kick?" And I'm like, "No, you kick on. It's a kick on. You kick on." What does that mean? Well, it means you go to the next thing. But like, I don't know why you kick on. I don't know why, but that's what it is. Like, there's a lot of my language where, oh, true luck. Leanne's like, yeah, put me in a room with 16-year-olds. It's a different language. I had to learn about yeeting, get yeeted. I'm like, what? Cap or no cap? I still don't know which one's what. Have you heard about these?
No, Cap, you lost me.
Cap, it's like, is it a lie or is it the truth? Is it cap or no cap?
All right.
Fair
enough.
Cap is the lie.
KAP. What the heck, kids these days, man?
Is it a flat or an apartment? Oh, a flat is an apartment. A lift is an elevator. Yeah. But things like that. Just everyday vernacular for me. I said one the other day, like rugged up. It's a bit cold out. You want to get rugged up? People are like, what? Why would you put a rug over you? I'm like, well, you don't.
I'm so used to all these now because
you lived in Australia.
Yeah.
What was your favorite one?
I don't know because I'm so used to them now. That's what I mean. Is it's funny to hear you mention these things that threw people for a loop because I'm with you. I would go, come on, even if you haven't heard it, you can figure out.
Piece it together.
Take 2 seconds. Yeah.
If you want to go to the servo on the Arvo to get some petrol and you chuck a Yui to get there, like.
Understood everything you just said. That's so funny.
And you're only there for what? 2 years? How long were you there for?
Yeah, a couple years, yeah.
Yeah. There you go, Colleen. I'm so fascinated by the linguistics involved in the evolution of language. Rugged up sounds naughty. It's not. It's not.
No, it's like putting warm clothes on big not big blanket, big coats
a jacket.
Yeah.
It's called a jumper. All right. Well, that's a fun way to
One of
wrap
us.
up this discussion. We have spoken about Mistborn. I want to announce next month's book. We are going to be reading book 3 of the Dresden Files. It's called Summer Night. Or is it book 4? Shit. Thierry, what is it? Book 4?
Book 4.
Book 4. Thierry, straight away. It's book 4. Summer Night, but it's night as in I will knight thee.
Oh.
Jake, have you read the Dresden Files?
No, I haven't, and I'm obviously very familiar with them. Those are
Do you
very
listen to
popular
audiobooks?
Some audiobooks, yeah. I've done some. I prefer a physical book anytime I can. So audiobooks kind of tends to be like, oh, people recommend this, but I'm at whatever job where I'm doing a lot of driving or what have you, then I'll do an audiobook and I'll commit to it and finish it there. But yeah, I've got a
I
little bit of both.
suggest the entire Dresden Files series on audiobook. The narrator is James Masters, who is Spike from Buffy.
Okay.
And he has absolutely spoiled narration for me as a whole.
Really?
Because he is so good and he tells the story. He doesn't read the words. And the way that he does it, it's so almost like interactive, but it's so well done. But
cool.
The whole series is about a wizard called Harry. Not that wizard, not that Harry. He is a supernatural detective that lives in Chicago. And using these supernatural skills has to sort of like, it's a bit of a procedural in a way where it's like he works with the Chicago Police Department to try and get through some of these cases, but they're all with a supernatural flair. So there are different vampire courts, there are werewolves, there's fae.
Cool.
I'm a very big fan. I think you would love it. It's not high fantasy, which is usually what you adore. It is contemporary fantasy. But
no, that's great though. I will absolutely. I mean, my list is so long, but we'll slap that on there for sure.
We've covered the first 3 here at Geek Bomb, so that's why we're up to book 4 of Dresden Files, called Summer Night. Some people haven't read the book, so they're going to catch up. They are a shorter, easier read. So like Michelle was mentioning, this book had some pretty tough themes, kind of dragged you down, made you feel a little hopeless at times. This one is not like that at all. It's very, very fun. What's the series that it's like? I don't know. I just think you'd dig it. You watched
I'll
the
totally
TV
check it
show?
out. I appreciate it. I remember the TV show existing. I never saw it though.
Yeah, the books are like 8 hours, so that's a super, super easy listen.
Oh, nice.
I just definitely recommend listening to them because they're so good. So we're going to be covering that one for December because December is going to be a bit of a shorter month. I think we're going to be doing the 2nd and 3rd week of December for that one because the first week I'm going to be doing my final Bright class, which is teaching you guys how to be a host. We're going to be doing actual skills for that one. Like you're going to talk and I'll say, do this, do that. It'll be cool.
Great.
Oh, Finn, you haven't read them? Gotta read it. Catch up on the first 3. It's like super easy. And then we'll get into this. Jake, we actually haven't spoken about you. You've just wrapped up an amazing fantasy series that is not only on Sci-Fi Around the World, but on the CW as well. It's called The Outpost. Yes. You played a knight.
I did.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I did. Yeah, we just finished a 4-year run of The Outpost, and I played a character named Garrett, spelled with 1 T. Spears. But it was great.
That's how you spell Garrett. Just so
there's a little bit of a typo.
Do you think that's
there,
kind of weird that out of all the names your character could be, it's mine?
Well, when they cast me, I demanded it.
Oh, Garrett's a sturdy name.
Can you imagine you book a job and you're like,
we're calling you Reginald. Hear me out.
No, it was a lot of fun. It was great. He was kind of this paladin type character who had a bit of a
lawful good
fall. Yeah, he was lawful good at the start for sure, and a little more chaotic good by the end. But it was great. It was a lot of fun. And again, anytime I get to talk like this and put a sword on my belt and ride horses and fight and all the rest of it, is a good day for me because I love this stuff. So I did that.
What do you say to people that thinks that your British accent is better than your American accent?
I'm always very touched when people think that my English accent is passable or more than passable. So thank you is what I would say to that. I get very self-conscious about my accents, but I enjoy them, and it's a lot of fun. And I did that one for so long that I feel like I have no excuse anymore. So it's good to know that it seems to do the job. But that was great, and now I'm back from that and just auditioning again, and I have a D&D dice company called Stormforged Dice that I launched and designed for, and I stream twice a week. So I'm just a big old nerd. I'm just a geek, and I'm happy to be here with you. And
when are you streaming
it's been
again?
fun. I stream Tuesdays and Thursdays at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard. On Tuesdays, we've started doing Sea of Thieves, and on Thursdays, Elder Scrolls Online. And I voice quite a number of characters in this year's content for ESO. So it's always fun when we come across NPCs, some more prominent than others, in this year's content. For those of you who play, I voice Destron, one of the 4 ambitions in this year's story, and the Adoring Admirer, and then a bunch of quest givers. And
what's the
vendors
Adoring
and things like
Admirer sound like?
He's very excited all the time. You look just like the paintings. By Azura, by Azura, by Azura. And he's just he's a very excitable little chap who has some horrible things happen to him.
When is Biazora getting on t-shirts, huh?
Yeah, there you go. That's the question.
All right, so if you do want to follow along, Sea of Thieves. Oh, Black Wolf just said Sea of Thieves. You just got yourself a follow.
I appreciate it.
And ESO, give Jake a follow. Jake, again, just pop a little hello in the chat so people can click your name and give you a quick follow. Yep. We will be back again. Oh my goodness. Not the 1st, so it must be the 8th if I do simple maths. There it is, the 8th and the 15th of December. We'll be covering the 1st and then the last half of Summer Night, the 4th book in the Dresden Files. Give Jay Stormoen a follow. I'm just going to say it like that. It's just how I'm going to do it.
Love it.
We've covered... What?
Oh, so it feels... There we go.
And Jake Stormoen on all socials.
So there just if you're curious there, because it's different than my Twitch. That's all.
Yes, it is. Socials, Twitch. We've ticked it off. We promoted the show. We did your dice. Vaidin just gifted you a sub. That's really sweet. That's what our community is all about.
Much.
Now you can use all the Geek Bomb emotes, including this one.
Oh, love it.
That's my favorite. We'll be back. Have a week off. In the interim, please, we got to get through Wheel of Time for Nerdist. Oh, shoot. They might be doing it on the 15th. Fuck. This is why it's so hard to get the schedule happening. I'll figure it out. Keep it tuned to the Discord. If you're not a part of the Discord, we'll pop it in the chat right now as well. Jake, thank you for giving me your night. I'll let you go. Who should we raid? Jake, do you raid? You got to learn to raid.
I do. I need to raid at the end of my streams.
You got to. It's an accomplishment. It's something that you get to tick off.
Yeah, my buddy Rich, the creative director of ESO, is on right now. People are saying to raid him /lyric.
What is it? What's he playing at the moment?
/lyric. ESO, because he's the creative director of it.
Oh, he's playing ESO? All right. We'll have to raid, and so we can say... we just had Jake on. Oh, he's got quite a few more than us, but there you go. /lurk, we'll be raiding for that one. Tell him Jake and Maud says hi. Enjoy ESO. Ask your ESO questions. Book club will be continuing. We've got a couple of books picked out for next year as well. It'll be a lot of fun. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you for having me.
That's done.